I was born under the shadow of idols, raised in palaces carved by human hands and bathed in the incense of false gods. My father, Ethbal, was both king and high priest of Baal, and I was trained not in silence, but in fire. They called me princess, but I was never content to be a symbol. I was born to reign. From my earliest days, I learned that influence was taken, not given, and that the throne belongs to those who seize it with both hands. So when I was sent to Israel to marry Ahab, I did not arrive as a bride, I arrived as a queen. I crossed the border with more than silks and gold. I carried gods in my blood, ambition in my bones, and a fire in my voice that no man could tame. The people of Israel looked at me with suspicion. I was foreign. I was bold. I was not like their women. I spoke loudly in courts where others whispered. I walked with pride where others bowed. And I would not submit to their God. They called him Yahweh, the Lord of hosts, but he was not mine. My gods were many, my rituals ancient, my prophets loud and sensual. I filled the land with the scent of Asherah poles and the smoke of Baal's altars. I built temples with royal hands, adorned with silver and crimson, and I fed my priests at the royal table. I believed I was reshaping Israel into something stronger, more alive. But in truth, I was poisoning it from the inside out. There were voices who resisted me, prophets of the old ways, ragged men who preached in dust and fire. They warned of judgment, of wrath, of a jealous God who would not be mocked. I silenced them. One by one, they disappeared, some exiled, some executed, others simply gone. I was methodical. I was strategic. I believed I was unstoppable. But there was one voice I could not silence, Elijah. He stood in my path like a mountain, unpolished, wild, unafraid. He confronted my husband. He confronted me. And worst of all, his God answered with fire. I remember the day on Mount Carmel. Hundreds of my prophets cried out, cutting themselves, dancing, calling to Baal for hours. Nothing came. No wind. No fire. No voice. And then Elijah, alone, drenched his altar in water, and prayed. And the fire fell. Real fire. From heaven. It consumed the offering, the stones, the dust. My prophets were slaughtered. My pride was pierced. But still, I would not bow. I sent word that he would die by my hand. I swore it by my gods. Let them strike me down if Elijah lived another day. He fled. I remained. And my heart grew colder. Then came Naboth. A simple man with a vineyard near the palace. Quiet, righteous, unshakable. Ahab wanted his land, and Naboth refused. I watched my husband sulk like a child. And I decided, if he would not act, I would. I wrote letters in the king's name, summoned false witnesses, and ordered Naboth to be stoned. His blood soaked the earth, and the vineyard passed to the king. I believed I had won again, swift, clean, efficient. But that vineyard was not just a plot of land, it was sacred. And I had desecrated it. Elijah returned. He came with words that chilled the marrow. Have you murdered and also taken possession? He asked Ahab. And then to me, though I was not present, he spoke a prophecy that would haunt my nights. The dogs would lick Ahab's blood in the same place Naboth died. And me. Dogs would eat my flesh by the wall of Jezreel. I laughed when I heard it. Let the prophets rage, I was still queen. I still wore the crown. And the gods I served had not struck me down. I believed, foolishly, that I still had time. Years passed. Ahab died in battle, and dogs licked his blood from the chariot floor. One prophecy fulfilled. I pretended not to care, but something inside me trembled. I wore the crown now without him. My sons sat on thrones, but I ruled behind them. The people feared me still, but it was no longer reverence. It was the silence before a storm. The land groaned under judgment. The heavens felt heavy, and I could not escape the feeling that I was being watched, not by men, but by God. Then came Jehu, fierce and anointed, riding like a storm through the land. He killed my son. He destroyed my bloodline. He tore through everything I had built. And when he came to Jezreel, I knew the moment had arrived. Still, I would not show fear. I painted my eyes, adorned myself in royal robes, and stood in the window of the palace like a goddess, proud and unyielding. Let him look upon me and see a queen, not a widow. I would face death as I lived, defiant. He looked up, not with desire, but with fury. Who is on my side? He shouted. And 2 or 3 eunuchs looked at me, then turned. They threw me from the window. The world spun. The stones rose to meet me. My body shattered. My blood ran down the wall. And as I lay there, broken, the dogs came. Not symbolic dogs. Real dogs. They tore what remained of me. They licked my blood, just as Elijah said. When they came to bury me, they found only skull, hands, and feet. The rest had been consumed. I was Jezebel, queen of Israel, daughter of Sidon, prophetess of Baal. And yet, in the end, nothing remained of me but a warning. Power without God is dust. Pride is a throne made of smoke. I had every opportunity to repent, but I chose defiance.
I chose darkness.
And the God I mocked kept his word. Now I speak not from thrones, nor temples, but from the ashes of my own destruction. My name echoes not in songs of victory, but in whispers of warning. There is no glory where I lie, only dust, silence, and the memory of a woman who stood against the living God and dared to believe she would win. My jewels, once radiant under the sun, are scattered in ruin. My voice, once sharp and commanding, is now a faded echo. I am remembered not as queen, not as wife, not even as mother, but as a symbol of defiance, arrogance, and spiritual corruption. People speak my name with disdain, and rightly so. I did not lose my way. I rejected the way. I was not misled, I led myself. I heard the truth, over and over, through the voice of Elijah, through the fall of Ahab, through the silence of the heavens, through the trembling of the earth beneath my feet. But I wrapped myself in pride like a royal robe. I believed that fear could replace faith, that altars built by my hands could silence the God who made the skies. I chose my gods, those who demanded blood, but gave no life. If I had turned, even at the end, there might have been mercy. I now believe that. I see it clearly from this side of eternity. The God I mocked was slow to anger. He warned me, again and again. He did not strike at my first rebellion. He gave me time, space, and even breath to turn back. But I wore rebellion like a crown, and I called it power. I called it identity. I defined myself by what I could control, and when it began to unravel, I held tighter until everything broke in my hands. And what was it all for? Influence that passed like smoke. Fear that could not save me. A kingdom that did not belong to me. A legacy stained with the blood of prophets and the innocence of Naboth. I see now that I was not strong, I was broken from the beginning. My strength was survival, not surrender. And it deceived me. I thought that control meant victory, that silencing voices meant peace. But the silence I created only echoed back my own emptiness. My heart is no longer proud. It cannot be. In the end, I was not thrown down by men. I was brought low by the truth I rejected. A truth that could have set me free, if I had not warred against it. I speak now not to redeem myself. There is no redemption in my story. But if my fall can keep others from standing where I stood, then let these words not be wasted. Let the next woman who wears a crown remember. The weight of it is nothing compared to the weight of God's judgment. I know there are women who feel powerful, influential, unstoppable. Women like I was, strategic, assertive, bold. These are not curses. But power, without submission to God, becomes poison. Influence, without righteousness, becomes infection. Boldness, without humility, becomes rebellion. I was gifted, strong, persuasive, but I used it all to build a kingdom without God. And kingdoms without God always fall. Some in a moment. Others, slowly. Mine fell with the sound of bones against stone. Even now, centuries later, my name is used to describe the spirit of seduction, manipulation, and false power. They call it the Jezebel spirit. But I was not just a symbol, I was a soul. A woman who bled. A woman who believed. A woman who burned bridges with heaven and found herself alone in the ashes. I do not deny it. I deserve the title. I earned the fear. But I also hope that my voice, though soaked in shame, can still speak warning to the proud. You who hear me now, do not wait until the dogs come. Do not harden your heart because you've built your kingdom on applause and fear. There is still time for you. The same fire that consumed the altar on Mount Carmel is still alive today. Not to destroy, but to cleanse. The same voice that thundered through Elijah is still whispering now, not in judgment alone, but in invitation. If you feel that trembling in your spirit, do not ignore it as I did. Do not call it weakness. It is the beginning of wisdom. Let my fall be your turning point. Let my death be your awakening. I did not need to die that way. But pride would not let me live any other. I could have knelt. I could have confessed. I could have turned. I could have asked, even once, for the God of Israel to look upon me with mercy. But my voice never formed the words. My heart never bowed. And in the end, the window became my judgment seat, and the stones, my sentence. So I leave you with this, not as a queen, not even as a woman of power, but as a broken echo of warning. Do not be me. Do not wait until the fall. Bend before the fire descends. Choose surrender before judgment. Choose humility before ruin. The crown I wore became my curse, but the God I rejected, He is still merciful. And His mercy is not beyond you, as it was beyond me.